because everybody's on these platforms, and I've seen Patreon, and I've seen Substack for journalism, and it does seem like decentralized arts platforms are growing. Yeah, it is one of those answers. Like, is the huge volume better or worse for us as creative people?
Yeah, great question. I mean, for me, I think more art in the world and the making of it is ultimately better for the world. Just, like other things really do help, like mind, spirit. So I think it'll change, like democratize it too. So I'm all in on that.
I haven't spoken in here before, but I was just thinking about how you're talking about the guy with the documentary that didn't go anywhere, or his film that didn't go anywhere, but he still monetized it. He still found a way to make it smaller and make a documentary out of it. That's the thing that a lot of us artists miss, is like, we spend a lot of money on these big projects, but you can make it smaller and still monetize it, like through prints and stickers, and still make it accessible to your audience.
Also, the prints and stickers is a great way to get your art seen, and you never know who finds it or who sees it and who recognizes it and says, hey, let me pull up this artist and, hire you for something else.
It's literally like, this was a discovery I had in December. I never used to sell prints. Only the website put in installations or gallery shows. And so I started selling prints, right? And what I very quickly realized was, okay, one, that's a great way to, sell work, but just the variety. I started off with maybe one artwork, and when I scaled that up and had 5 to 10 variations of completely different things, I was shocked at the diversity of people's appreciation of my work. You think of people buying your work that just want one thing, but I think the important thing when you're selling things like prints is diversification in what you're making, and not being afraid to put the random things that you come up with up for sale, because people have varying tastes. I think as artists, when you're trying to make something, sometimes that can be, you get stuck in tunnel vision. I don't know what you think.
No, I totally agree, and I've sold prints to my friends and to people that don't have that income for that, that main piece that costs thousands of dollars, but then they work for someone that does have that income, and they talk about your art and they spread your art. And that's the thing I think gets lost in the sauce, is that networking part, that you could be selling a sticker to someone that you think will never buy your multiple thousands dollar piece, but they know someone that does.
You gotta be careful too, and this is just a little thing I've learned recently. There are some galleries who will not allow you to have prints of the work that they hold. And so starting to plan ahead of the technique that you want to use for the certain pieces of whatever series you're working on, be super mindful not to screw yourself over as well if you're looking at galleries who are a little bit more exclusive.
Yeah, how do you balance it out, Lucian? How would you say, because I know some galleries just don't even want you to sell work outside of the gallery.
Yeah, it's kind of for me, I lay all my galleries out at once and all my pieces and everything, and then I'll kind of start dropping stuff. The digital pieces I make prints of, but that's because I, then turn them into paintings and whatever, which are their own originals. But for I think it's just a matter of planning ahead.
So what's the topic today? I'm late in the room. Is there a topic we're talking about today?
We're kind of all over the place.
It's a free-for-all.
I've been jumping in and out. I just woke up. But y'all were talking about the integrity of an artist. You're talking about Murakami, and his role and his journey, and having, I think when I first jumped in, we were talking about creating our series or our collections that are super niched out. That's the funnel I've been a part of.
I got some leftovers.
So the question about the prints, AR prints.
how does it work? So you have some sort of like material that you then download an app for, and then you put your phone over it, and you can see something on your phone. Is that how it works? I'm a bit
yeah.
on these things.
Now let me explain. I think it's an interesting medium for those that want to know. Hit on my like IG profile. There's a video of it somewhere, like fourth video down maybe. I don't know. What I did was and this is the thing about like AR and prints. I think it's really cool, but yeah, I just wanted to. I'll just explain how it works. I don't want to go into my work too much. I don't want to steal the room. Basically, when you create an augmented reality effect, you can take a picture, let's say a picture of your artwork, and then that is the trigger image. So if you use like Spark AR, which is the augmented reality programming application that Facebook made, so you can publish your own filters and effects onto like Instagram and Facebook. If you use that, then you have this thing called a plane tracker, and a plane tracker just means you upload an image to the program, and then what will happen is when you're looking through your Instagram camera and you have that filter selected, it will see the picture on the wall, and then you can put augmented artworks on that by building a filter. So it's kind of like a trigger situation. So I guess my use case was I wanted to sell prints to my collectors, but I wanted it to resemble like I program like algorithmic artworks. So what I did is recreated those algorithmic artworks inside augmented reality, and then used the physical print, which is like a static picture, and it's just a printed out picture, as the trigger image. So when you then looked at it, I used what's called an occluder, which would basically cover the print with the color black, and then a shader which then gave it reflections using an environment texture, which is like a really clever way of faking lighting in augmented reality. So what happened is when you looked at the print through the Instagram camera, all of a sudden it looked like a black shiny mirror, and then inside that mirror I was able to program augmented reality artworks to do their thing. It kind of brings it to life. But I put that online, and it was crazy. Like, we sold out so fast because I think people were really excited about the idea of being able to share on social media the artwork they had in their home. And with this, it meant that artwork was, like three-dimensional, like a universe kind of in their living room.
Yeah, I saw the one with the hearts. That was a print, correct?
Yeah, literally. That was just a. I think I print those ones as C-type prints, photographic prints. But you could be doing a Giclée print or anything, and it would work. It worked just fine.
Wow, next level stuff.
Hey, Thomas, are you gonna go more into AR? Like, do you have any other plan?
Okay, so we're seeing some of the biggest institutional artists like Olafur Eliasson. If you don't know his work, there was a documentary, I think it was called Abstract maybe on Netflix, and they talk about his work. He just had a solo show. He had a solo show with Tay, and this guy's crazy influential. He's now making augmented reality artworks, so it's like especially with Cause and him doing what he was doing, there's definitely huge art world movements that AR is the future. And if I can just explain why I think that is very briefly, I'll keep it short. Facebook are leading the world in technology. They bought Oculus and started the VR revolution, the largest social media network. And I think it's fair for us all to say, even on this app, our profiles are kind of via Twitter and Instagram, right? Like the extensions of our profiles. So they're hugely influential. And I think in terms of AR, Instagram and Facebook are really kind of leading the way in relationship to the marketplace. How do you create that content, that augmented content, and how do you share it? So moving forward, I'm actually sat here right now. I'm trying to make an effect for a client, and I'm not gonna lie, I hate it because I'm like, all right, I just have to make you look pretty, right? Like augmented reality at the moment, it's filters. But what I really am excited about is when we reach this horizon moment where we have a Google Glass style device, and we can look around our living room, and our room can be augmented. I'm so excited for that. So yeah, I think when the technology gets there, honestly, programming this stuff is it's just a nightmare. It's so easy, but it's also so complicated if you want to try and do something that's anything more than just a visual thing. But I think AR is
Hey, my apologies. I see everybody leaving. They say, man, I don't want to see her watch this nigga eat. Hey, I'm hungry as hell right now, man. Sorry. So I figured I'd start the stream and just have my dinner for breakfast. That's all good though, cause oh, we're gonna keep working on this underpainting. Try to get that filled in. Um, I like lobster. Damn, this lobster get a shit. Mm, Um, fill in this underpainting and get that all blocked in, and then I'll jump back to the other commission I was working on and try to get as much on that done as I can today. And then I'll keep checking the other commission I did recently, and make sure I get that shipped out. Maybe throughout the week, or hopefully at least by next weekend. Yo, when I was looking for 18 by 24s, this was flipping around. I was like, oh, they got 18 by 24 right there. Turn around, I'm like, fuck, that one got
That's
something
so
on it.
pretty.
Now, I told you my homie had the tea and Reiki shop, and I said he had a painting on mine, and it was some weird shit he wanted me to do. I was gonna do a second one, and never finished that shit, yo. And I found like, yo,
I love that.
I had ideas for this shit, yo, like something popping out the darkness, out the black, and I was like,
I was being funny. I was just looking at the like kind of
yo,
shape.
yeah,
Like,
I was like, damn, I forgot all about. I had started that fucking
that lid is broke.
It seemed like it's supposed to stay on there, right?
It doesn't stay on, and I wish you would have told me that because I would have just already. Like,
that's why I didn't know. Like it looks like it should like attach and stay on, but it doesn't. So I don't know if it's made like that or if it's just
coffee cups are kind of like that, like they spill, or like even that pink cup I got, it has a straw in it, so if you tip it, it comes out the straw. So like you really can't win no matter what cup you get, unless you get like one of those Jodies, but then they don't fit in my cup holders. So
that's what's wrong. That's with my car too. Like my shit only got 2 cup holders and they not big.
Yeah, at least with that they put the smaller beast and then they did it bigger at the top, so it probably will fit.
Now I can imagine like if I had it still like that.
Like your car, you only have those 2 cup holders. It's weird you don't have none in the back, but at least you got bigger cup holders. Like you see my car, the cup holder in the front is like for a kid's cup, and then there's one for an adult's cup. Like I'm sorry, I didn't know 2 adults couldn't have drinks right now. That lobster. Oh yeah, I gotta remember to bring us some soup and stuff back today.
Some what?
Some cream of crab soup.
Oh, yeah.
The Amish market, I'm not gonna make it in time unless I leave right now. So, but if you want me to go, I will. If you want me to go to the Amish market, I will. Like I said, I have to leave right now.
I don't want you to go out. I know you gotta go do your music.
I was gonna stay because I'm like, damn, do I really want to drive just to go do a song or 2? And then I was like, what's wrong with you? You love music. Yeah. Go do what you gotta do.
Music. Yeah. Call him and make sure all his shit.
I texted him already. I was like, we good? He was like, we good.
You show.
Yeah, because if I get all the way on
you show we good now, nigga. You know what? Start something up real quick and run through a set.
Turn my beat on.
Yeah, let me make sure.
You already got the beat from last time. I got the song memorized. I'm probably going to do more than one song, but I have like one in mind. So. I'm so blown about that. with that lid.
Yeah, just boop. I can imagine like if that shit's in the car, that shit'll pop off while I'm driving.
You know exactly. You know I love like so. If you take it, we just have to like not feel it, but below. I can't even talk. Above.
Start over. When you take it,
you can't feel it above the red line.
There you go. She got it. That baby's smart. She know words.
Oh my god. Yeah, above is such a big word, y'all. Such a big word.
But you see this cool ass lens made in China. Why they gotta put everything made in China? But it probably is really made in China.
It really does look like a little Canon camera.
Yeah, but that shit is dope, yo. And it's a coffee cup. They got all the little buttons and switches on it.
I have a major coffee cup collection and addiction, and I saw this one, and it was like coffee spelled backwards is a fuck. So I don't give a fuck until you give me my coffee or some shit it said. I was like, oh yeah, I need that shit. Don't talk to me till I get my coffee in my
coffee, a fuck. Damn. I don't give a fuck.
Now on the days I drink tea, we good. But on the days I need my coffee. I was just about to say, I need to get a 3.5.
What?
I need to get a 3.5.
3.5.
I have a little bit left, but I know like I'm gonna smoke one on the way, and then one on the, or probably half in the studio, and then the other half on the way back. I've been doing much better, cause it used to be like I needed 2-3 for my ride.
I just gave you.
I know. I'm gonna buy them for you. Yeah, that don't count though. I smoked most of that night. I needed it.
I got lobster and steak in my teeth.
Oh shit, I done left my food all sitting out. My eggs all nasty now. Oh my god. What time is it? What time is it?
10:20.
I gotta get myself together. Crookie faces.
Yeah,
thanks, man.
Like, they've just released, I think it was 2 days ago, this thing called the Spark Academy. If you Google it, like Spark, basically just go into Google, type
About to get lit up in here in a minute.
And I'm not gonna lie, like, okay, like I was in the beta for AR effects, like I've been doing this for a long time. I sat there and watched all of it, and oh my god, it was so easy,
and that's why I forgot about it, because I set it to the side for it to dry, because there was so many fucking layers.
I was gonna say it looks like it's easy, but it's all the layers and details.
And I set that shit down, and like, yo, I don't know why I never thought about this shit until I was looking for something else.
With this, because this is black, did you like, did you do the whole...
No, I ain't gonna lie, yo. I was gonna copy this other artist I saw, right? So he does like weird little flat abstract backgrounds, and then he comes in with the palette knife and then layers it on chunky on top of it in different ways. It's like I was going to
so like this was like layers and layers and layers across. But like that's what I'm saying. Like what about this? Like this little black part.
Yeah, I'm gonna
just went and put the black in and just like
no, the whole canvas.
You did layers too with that. Yeah. That's what I was asking. It wasn't black to start with.
I painted it all black.
Seemed like it would make it easier.
Yeah. So you're talking about this old painting that I found. I started on this and never really got back to it because I don't know, I just was doing other shit and just forgot about it. So I don't even know which way this shit goes anymore. It may go like this way. So I don't know. I was going through like this little abstract phase for a minute. And this is one of those pieces. Once again, like abstract really isn't my thing, and that's how this piece was so easily forgot about. But I was looking for a canvas to put this on.
If you create an effect, you click a button and it will send the effect to your
Yeah, I was looking for a canvas to start this commission, and the client wanted my standard 18 by 24, and I'm like, fuck, I know there's got to be some more canvases in here, like, and I don't know, I grabbed this one thinking it was a clean blank canvas, and I was like, fuck, that ain't it. Then I'm looking at it, I'm like, what the fuck is this? Oh shit, I forgot I painted that. And then I realized I didn't have any more 18 by 24 inch canvases, and I had to run to the fucking store and buy a couple of them. So I bought 6 canvases. I'm using one here, so I still have 5 18 by 24 inch canvases just in case anybody else wants a small commission. Because the last 3 commissions I did were 18 by 24. It's like, I guess those were my last 3 canvases. Well, the last 2 canvases I had, because I had to get more for this third one. But normally I do like larger scale images, and most people want something a little bit bigger than an 18 by 24, so I don't normally stockpile those as often as I used to anymore. Ooh, the Roach Farm. They might be a second generation Doobie in here some way. You know what I'm saying? Second generation Doobie up in here. All right. I don't know what kind of rock or stone this is, but I don't know. But this shit heavy as a motherfucker. I tell you that. Nope. Yeah, I don't know if this is like some fucking granite or what the fuck. Some quartz or something. I don't know. This bitch is heavy. Like if you hit somebody with this bitch, oh, they gonna die. You gonna kill somebody if you hit them with that shit. Marble? It might be some marble, yo. I'm telling you, that bitch heavy, bro. I forgot where I got that asterisk from. But that shit heavy. That shit weigh about 8 pounds. Maybe even feel like a 10-pound weight almost. But never seen red marble. Or it's pinkish. I know they got like pink granite, but no, it is kind of red. It's a yeah, you're right. It is kind of reddish. And it has a like orange and like this lighter tone right here. I don't know. It's a fucking rock, though. Yeah, whatever that bitch is, though.
With a picture on the bottom screen talking about GameStop trends and everything. Yeah. All right. I'll give it a look. Okay, guys. Thanks.
So that shit. Yeah, that bitch heavy, though. Oh.
Inevitable. If all of you guys are saying it's going to have to go through OBS, and has to go through Twitch. I guess I was just hoping that there was an airplane function where I could just push a button and then it would just go on to whatever I wanted it to reflect on. But I banged my head against the wall with this last night, and I just
one day
figured it out.
It'll come one day, but we're not there yet. I think it's but that opens up an interesting point I wanted to ask you, which was, streaming, casting, while you're making your work. I think that for some,
that's what I thought. Maybe like Quartz or something. I don't know what the fuck that shit is.
Process. And sometimes when you see a piece of work, whether it's a visual or physical, artwork, you think like, how did they make that? And I'm just very curious, like, how do you feel about the idea of actually giving away your process so freely?
I think that you're educating, and entertaining. So edutainment, and I think you're not really necessarily giving it away because you're always going to have it. I mean, your skills are going to be your skills, and your style is going to be your style. I mean, the outlook for art 90% of the time is to promote visual to other people, and to spark and incite some sort of creativity in them. So I think that art, obviously you want to get paid for it, and obviously, you want to not just give away your trade secrets, but I think there's a way to entice and share a little bit here and there. And I think, my cousin, he sits with his 2 daughters, and they live stream my broadcasts on Facebook when I was using my Cintiq and Photoshop, and they loved it. They would just sit there for an hour and watch me, design my comic. And so, I mean, I think it's kind of a cool process. I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I think you can give a little bit and gain a lot.
No, I agree. I think that people when they watch you, everybody kind of takes from what they can take, but everyone has their own kind of background and kind of experience and kind of knowledge. So they would never necessarily be you, but they would just kind of like adapt some of the things that you may have done into their own process. So they would never know the root of your process. So like why you do this or why you choose to do this, because everything would be preference and everything would be relative. Like there's millions of ways of doing stuff. It would just be your way of doing it.
Hear, hear.
Hi everyone, just to briefly go back to the whole Spark exclusivity on Facebook News.
It had to be something electrical, because this shit is. The hollow part is like a scoop. You had to have something to drill that bitch out and ring that bitch around to get that fucking scoop out that bitch. And then how smooth the top and the bottom is. Like that shit had to be sanded, plain sanded with like some type of fine ass goddamn buffing machine or some shit, yo. Like that shit hella smooth, yo. Yeah, motherfucker ain't do that shit with like no hand tools or nothing. All right. Fucking comment lag is back, and it's bad. It's fucked up. Yo, that's why I've been telling everybody to download this motherfucking Clubhouse app. And I was saying that maybe on Friday evenings, we can all do a Clubhouse chat room, and so we can say fuck all the typing and texting and comment lag and all that shit. And on Friday for an hour while I'm in the studio, everybody can just come in here and fucking chat for a little while about different shit.
How do you take that digital art and store it and archive it for, your own personal use? If, let's say, one day Facebook and Instagram decide, you know what, screw you guys, we're done. Shut up shop. You've got years and years and years of progress work, designs, concepts that you shared. It's a conundrum.
This happened to me, V. I had a popular filter, and it was like the Q filter I made, and I loved it. And then one day Facebook just went, we no longer support particle world effects. This like functionality they had in the early beta that they got rid of, and that was upsetting. It was like, oh, so now you can't I can't even view that thing that I made. It doesn't even work. So I think that's an interesting point. The reliance you have on technology as artists. If we move forward. How much do we rely? And I think what you're saying is actually, I don't know where I stand. I'm just trying to find my way through this kind of jungle of technology and industry and institution on the quest of trying to become a better artist and have more opportunity. But that said, my heart screams, build it yourself, learn how to make it yourself, be the master of your own domain, the master of your own universe when it comes to expressing yourself. I think that's a great mantra to have.
I know it may seem.
I still had the coffee. I was trying so fuck.
But I know for me personally,
Trying so hard not.
When I do design,
Fuck.
If I have like a series or a photography series that I did, I would normally make two edits. So I would make an edit for me personally that would either go on my website or and then I would make an edit just for Instagram.
All right.
That way,
so somebody mentioned Discord to me a couple days ago. I'm not sure if Clubhouse is like Discord because I've never been on Discord, but someone told me that I should get it, and then I swear, it was like the next day. Or it could have been the same day because somebody in the stream was like, "Yo, get Discord." Army, was that you who told me that shit already? And anyway, somebody was like, "Yo, get Discord." And then I was like, "All right, I'll check it out." And then it was that evening, or maybe. That's crazy. But yeah, it was like that evening or the next evening. Somebody, no. How the story went? Okay, somebody in the stream told me to get Discord, and then that evening, my homie came over, and then she was talking about Clubhouse, and she's like, "Oh, Clubhouse, this app, da 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 da," and I'm like, "Is it like Discord?" I asked her the same question. I'm like, "Is it like Discord or something?" Because somebody just told me to get Discord, and she was like, "Oh, I don't know." She said the same thing I said. I never been on Discord, but yo, this new Clubhouse app is the shit. It's really dope and cool, and it's like everybody's on there now. And I'm like, all right. So while she's sitting there, I'm already downloading the app, and then she just walks me through it and helps me set up a page and show me how this shit worked. And I done met a lot of cool people out there already.
raise your hand, but I think there's something I've not heard yet being discussed in this room, which I think should be really interesting insight and it opens some great conversations, which is, who's your favourite artist and why? So I just want to open it up to the room if anyone has, is compelled to add to that. What's up, boys?
My favorite dead artist is Norman Rockwell. My favorite
dead artist. That's amazing.
my favorite living artist is Kehinde Wiley, and he's probably my favorite artist because his work it really just resonates with me. I kind of realized I was trying to go in a very similar direction with his art style before I was aware of his art, and once I became aware of his art, I was like, oh my god, like, and just try to really find out a lot about him. But just his New Republic installation, that it was so nice. And then he recently did Rumors of War, and his shit is just amazing. He's a very inspirational person, and I actually talked with Tim Akamura one time at a small artist talk, and I asked him a question. Tim Akamura is an Asian American, well, an Asian Canadian who lives in America now. And when you look at the body of his work, it's mostly he utilizes black women a lot in his work, where they seem to dominate his art. And he said that, I asked him, I was like, dude, you're Asian from Canada. What's up with you and the black chicks? And he said that, the black woman is so underrepresented in art that it's so stupid. And he feels like he has to fill this void. And Kehinde Wiley work speaks to that same level, where when you look at it, he takes the Ninja Turtles and the other great Renaissance artists and exchanges them with black bodies, but regular people who look like me and my cousin and my neighbor down the street, and he puts us on this stage that's so grand and so regal that we're able to see ourselves in a different light. And I just really gravitate towards his art for being able to accomplish that, and to once again try to fill this void where black art is a subcategory of art, and just making all of our art just art and as it is. And so when you look at my work, it's definitely heavily saturated with black bodies and black images, because that void is there. So my favorite living artist once again is Kehinde Wiley. Norman Rockwell is my original favorite artist of all time, because he was a realist, and he just took everyday life, once again, everyday normal average people, and showed that we're all special. We all add to the human story. We all have a piece to contribute, no matter who we are or what our background, ethnicities, or anything like that. And he just really highlighted normal, everyday people, and that made me look at art in such a different way from such a young age, that I will always appreciate him and always look towards Norman Rockwell for inspiration.
That's dope, Travis. Can I comment on it real quick?
Sure. Yeah, sure, bro. I'm done.
I'm actually a friend of Tim's, and I was at his crib a few months ago, and it's funny, you're talking, right? And I'm like, I hope he doesn't say something negative about Tim, right? But check this out. When I went to Tim's house, I remember, and I'm also cool with Jonathan Mannion. So I did a show last year with Jonathan. So I'm like in there talking with Tim, and that was the first time I went to Tim's house. I used to always, see galleries and shit. And dude, I was there with a bunch of amazing black women. I was there with I was there with a girl named Tiff. She's a doctor over here in Brooklyn in Wyckoff Heights Hospital. A doctor. She's an ER doctor. And she's I had another girl there that was a full-on dancer, choreographer, hanging out with him. I can't remember what the other girl did, but he uplifts women, man. And And that's how we linked up, because he saw me doing it. I'm starting a non-for-profit organization for advanced arts for women. Because I was raised by my mom and my sister, and I have a daughter. So I vibe with women, and we help them. I really got that sense from Tim. You know, and a lot of the women that were in, one woman that was in there was even like getting emotional with us and sharing things, and we were hugging her. Sometimes I feel like men have to create a safe space for women where they can get a hug and not feel like we're going to ask them to sleep with us right after that, you know? Because a lot of women, they don't have father figures or never even had a father growing up. And most women I mentor, they don't have fathers. We got to be fathers and mothers to each other almost, man. Like in the art community, it's a vibe. That's why when I met him at first, I'm like, this guy looks like a model, dude. This guy's like good looking. He has the trimmed beard with the fly clothes. I'm like, yo, this guy's, is he taking advantage of these women? Dude, I hung out with him the whole night. Not the whole night, but like for hours we were chilling and drinking, smoking weed. And you know what? He's the real dude, man. Like, he's like me. And a lot of times when I walk into places, like I did that photo exhibit with Jonathan Manley last year, and it was like, there's a bunch of other cool photographers. Like, we did it in Brooklyn. I had like 5 of my mentees in there, women. And a couple of the guys are like, yo, man, you a pimp. I'm like, I'm not a pimp, dummy. They're pimping me. I respect it enough to let them pimp me. You know, like, come to this event, I'm introducing you to people, you know? And Tim is doing the same thing, man. Tim is dope. I appreciate, when you're trying to give back to the community as an artist, it really shows in your work, I feel, right?
Yo, facts. That's that's why, like you say, had a very similar experience with him. Just after an artist talk, is like, yo, I'm going to a bar. Whoever wants to come chill at the bar. The dude remembered my name like instantly. Is like, yo, follow this guy. Work. He's gonna be somebody, you know. And like I say, smoke the doobie with him. And he's a cool ass dude. But and that's why I really had to question him, like, from your background and your perspective, like, how is it that you choose to put the black woman at the forefront of your art? And where for a long time I felt like, um, I don't know, a little apprehensive, but and I guess in everybody's journey, you're always going to question your path, because for a minute I did tons of self portraits because I didn't have other models. I wanted to use like my own photography and my own imagery, and since I couldn't find a lot of guys to model for me, I use myself a lot, and I have tons of self portraits. And I remember I was a part of a co-op, and one month I decided to hang like a lot of my self portraits, and there was like 7 of them hanging at one time. And somebody's like, "Oh, you're really full of yourself." I'm like, "No, I'm using myself to as a caricature to express different aspects of blackness, of manhood, of masculinity." And so it's not me. It's a representation that I'm trying to present, and they act like it was so far fetched. And once again, that was like right before I came across this artist named Fahamu Peku. And when you look at Fahamu's art, he almost strictly does self portraits. That's all he does. But he uses himself as a caricature for deeper concepts and ideas. And so being able to like get in spaces where you see well accomplished artists utilizing similar ideas and similar concepts just reassures you that you're on the right path. And so for a long time people would ask me like, oh, you only paint black people, and why don't you paint white people? And it would kind of like, I don't know, I would kind of hesitate to even answer the question, but I narrowed it. Like, I tried to get this phrase to people where, would you ask a white artist why do they only paint white people? And it's simple as that. Like, there's enough white artists painting white people where they don't need my help. So they got that covered, and like I just choose to make my art as black as I possibly can and as beautiful as I possibly can, just to express our individuality as a people, yo.
Well, hit me, Travis. I'm introduce you to some people in Brooklyn. Are you in Brooklyn or close or anywhere?
I'm I'm in Scranton in Pennsylvania, but like I'm 2 hours. I'm just 2 hours from New York and 2 hours from Philly. Like I can be at Jersey in like 2 hours.
Yeah, man, plug in with me, man. Because of COVID, we haven't been doing anything, but we were actually creating a lot of art shows. I was actually mentoring this guy, Mo. He had this pop up gallery called Art Apple, and doing shows all over Manhattan. And then we moved to Brooklyn, and we had a space, and that's where we did that show last year. I did one. I was the creative director for that show with Jonathan Manning, and Vicky Powell, and Steve Pence, Melody Cole, D Nice. And we got all of those photographers citations from the Brooklyn Borough President's Office for their contributions to the project. So, we're trying to uplift people, man, in the artist community. And there's a lot of talent out there, man. You have great talent, man. Great talent. Sometimes it's just about having somebody like Tim or Mo or me or anybody like that. Just say, yo, throw yourself on the wall, man. Show. And I know that, I take it for granted because I'm from Brooklyn. I'm like, whatever. But then I see people come from out of state, and I'm like, oh my God, can I get up here? Oh wow, yeah, this is a venue here. Okay, I get it. So I decided to throw my weight behind this stuff and try to help people out. So hit me up, man. Maybe sell some art.
Yo, definitely, bro. That's what's up. I appreciate it, man.
Hey Travis, man, I was just scrolling through your page, man. The piece of you sitting down painting yourself with your I think it's a peace sign.
Norman Rockwell.
That's really Norman Rockwell inspired. I love that joint, man. That shit, it just brought a smile to my face. And I saw it, I was like, that shit's sick, man. So,
and a lot of people have tried to redo that.
Man.
Yes.
That's what I was gonna say, because I'm Dominican. I'm a whole light skinned black man, so I love my black and brown people. And I used to get into fights with that guy, the curator of that spot, because he had a lot of non-black and brown people in there. And he thought that I was being like reverse racist. That was a big fight to him. I'm like, bro, I got girls from Newark that are dope. I got black girls from Newark. I got this Dominican girl. He's like, nah. Because he was just trying to like clout. He was just trying to get the trust.
We sit up on Clubhouse, just chatting about art and shit, yo.
These art shows, like putting all these trust fund babies in the show. You gotta put poor kids in here, man, that's trying to sell, and he wasn't really with the shits. He was just trying to network, So, dude, I respect him for what he's doing, because he's reaching across Ohio, but people like you are the ones who need this space, man. Real. You're really gonna provide that perspective, that black and brown perspective, that Tim kind of gets because he's a minority in a sense because he's part Asian, but I really feel that you're important in this space too, Travis. Like, you got to know your worth and just get out there, man. Don't have imposter syndrome. Your work is just as dope. I'm looking at your work. I'm like, damn, he's talented. Just be in that space, man. Just know you're dope when you talk to these people. Don't be conceited, but anyway, hit me, man. You're gonna have to work on some stuff with you, bro.
Oh, definitely. And
I gotta add this in there before you respond to him. I really appreciate that even though Rockwell is one of your inspirations, like you were able to use that inspiration, but still keep your identity and keep your work true to yourself. Even though I can see the Rockwell inspiration, it's still you that I'm getting out of there. I'm not getting Rockwell. I can see the inspiration, but I can still see 90%, 80% of you as an artist in your work, and that's dope to me.
Yo, appreciate that. Like I say, what I take from Norman Rockwell is the everyday person. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes people say, well, why don't you paint Tupac? Why don't you paint Biggie Smalls? Every time a celebrity dies, they're getting their murals and all the paintings, and they get put on sneakers. And Cicely Tyson died. Now everybody feel like they got to hurry up and rush and paint Cicely. I can't. Those people are great, and they have motivated, inspired, and done a lot of great things for a lot of people. But everybody in this room, we all are a Kobe Bryant. We all are whoever, yo. You know what I'm saying? So I choose to focus on us, the regular people, everyday people, and make us look great and grand, intelligent and beautiful. And the thing about like knowing my worth, bro, like I said, I've been at this when I started to take this shit serious, for real, it took me a minute to figure out the stuff, you know what I'm saying? Especially like how to value your own ideas and your own concepts. And my house is full of art because I just refuse to let this shit go to anybody for any old price. And like I said, the last post I had, like, I had one painting. I painted that joint 8 years ago. Nobody has ever wanted to give me what I want for it. So screw it. I'll keep it for however long it takes until somebody finds the value in it that I find value in it, you know? And finally, just a couple days ago, somebody was like, oh, how much you want for it? I said, XYZ plus shipping. Oh, I got you. And they sent the money over. Okay, now I feel like if you gave me that amount for this painting, you are going to take care of it. This ain't some shit you're just going to like, oh, put in a storage room or throw up in the attic or nothing. You just put too much into it. You invested too much into that piece. So I know for a fact, and I actually know this person personally, so I know it's going to have a good home. Somebody's going to take care of this thing. It's going to become it's going to build an intrinsic value above and beyond what they gave monetary for it, and it could hopefully become a family heirloom that'll give their family joy and inspiration for as long as they take care of that shit. And so I feel like that's where I'm at with my art right now. Is just like I don't want to give it away. I want people to enjoy it, but it's like, once again, you just have to know the value of your art, and you, when it does find a home, you just want it to go to the right home.
Hey, I just wanted to pop on here because I have to leave in 5 minutes. I wanted to say, Travis, I have a gallery for emerging artists in Williamsburg, and any other artists. We have an open submission policy, and we've been open for about 5 years. I'm an artist myself, so feel free to look it up. It's Carrie Abel Gallery, and we do about 4 or 5 shows a year, and artists that we've shown for the first time ever, like 4 years ago, are now in permanent collections in the Met and the Rubin and things like that. So I'm really, really passionate about showing emerging artists. And then I wanted to just briefly say something about, because I'm an AR, VR artist as well, about the previous conversation. That a really great thing, I think Spark is really great. I've been working with that for 2 years. And I can't remember the artist name who was familiar with Unity and building their own app, but I think a way that you can think about it is releasing your art with Spark AR almost as like a single. And then you can, create a bigger platform that way, and then send people that are, the biggest fans of your art on Spark AR with Instagram and Facebook. Maybe you have additional things available on your own personal app, or sell.
And that's the thing, bro. Like,
non-fungible token, the NFTs.
I do make it a point to pay black people. Simple as that, yo.
Questions for me? I have to pop off to a meeting. Just wanted to let everybody know about that. Nice to meet you all. I've enjoyed listening.
Thanks, Gary.
I have a question.
How do you make your AR? Oh, go ahead.
No, just a quick question. You mentioned.
But once again, using these platforms as a tool, yo. To use it as a tool. My friend said, do this, do that, and there's an art group in here, and that's what I'm doing. I'm chilling in the art group, talking to all the fucking artists, and I just met a guy who knows the same famous artist I know, and he was like, yo, man, you need to get a show over in New York. So you never know. That's all you gotta do. Like, I always say, talk to the right people. Sooner or later, you'll meet somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, nigga. And somebody will get you in front of somebody who need to see your shit.
The New York City area is that they would have to, like, I don't have
simple
money
as
for
that.
shipping and things like that. So that would be the only thing. But we have had artists from all over, and particularly,
the Prince is 4 P's. I swear I gotta get me a t-shirt. The Prince is 4 P's, yo. Passion, patience, practice, and persistence.
But yeah, that's
you gotta have patience.
The email for that is just submission.
You gotta have a passion. You gotta practice this shit, but you gotta be persistent. And that, I think, patience and persistence. That's for the long haul. It's a marathon. I've been doing this shit for 11 years. And then I still tell myself I need another 10, 15 years before I really get where I want to be. Maybe another 20 years before I'm like where I want to be with my art, because I feel like I'm just getting started, nigga. This shit it's just now starting to get good. It took me goddamn 7 years, 8 years to get just good at painting.
Oh, sure. So there's a lot of really
Now,
things
in the last few years, I've been getting kind of good at ideas and concepts.
Reality filter
And, you know,
on Instagram
and so I can imagine in like 15, 20 years, I'll be thinking on some other shit, you know what I'm saying? Probably be done reinvent myself. And do, I don't know, I'm just excited about my art career, yo.
And there's a lot of really cool ways you can combine music. There's VR art applications where there actually has like sound responsive brushstrokes. So you import your song, and then as you're painting, as the music gets louder, the brushstrokes will vibrate more ferociously. So yeah, there's like tons of applications for that, but that was the one I'm probably most currently using. So if you look on my Instagram profile, you can record like yourself, and it'll have a clip of the single. And then if you go look at the music video on YouTube, you'll see that like the close-ups of me singing is literally inside of the filter. But just one more note about like the AR VR stuff with doing your own app. One of the things that I think is the concern that somebody brought up, that I think the biggest concern or the biggest thing about why it would be good to, you know, write your own app is that, you know, certain platforms might stop working. And so I have some that are triggers for painting. So like there'll be a two-dimensional painting, but then there's an augmented reality trigger that causes another effect to work. And I had done that previously with other companies. And so sometimes they go out of business. And so you can't really sell something like to a collector. It's very difficult to sell something like that when you don't have control over everything. So I think Instagram is really fantastic for like having it be sort of like the equivalent of a but you can't sell that. But platform that way. And then if you're going to actually sell the work, it's much better to have complete control. But that's really the only reason that you would need the total control.
Yeah, love it, actually. I'll look at your... I'm into immersion and interactivity, and we're actually, like, building AR. So it'll be... Yeah, I'm curious how you're taking it on. And, yeah, if, you know, you can add haptic to other... Like, we're playing around with haptic a lot, tied to sound. So that would be the other piece that I haven't seen really in Spark or anything.
Very cool. I have to pop off now, but looking forward to connecting with you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Tate.
Fuck.
Can I make a quick comment and then I want to pop up? Is that cool?
Go ahead.
Wow. Born and raised. I was born in Bushwick, raised in East New York, moved to Commercy. I moved back to Bushwick. People that move into Bushwick and Brooklyn and create galleries and ask people to exhibit their artwork don't do well here. There's a whole political atmosphere in New York. If you're not from here, don't start doing murals and graffiti, you know? Unless you're
the 3 Ds, discipline, determination, and dedication. There you go. The 3 Ds and the 4 Ps.
Here and build with them and build value and show them that you care about the community. And then you will be allowed to come in here and
you gotta have it. One of the two, man. You're gonna use the 3 Ds or the 4 Ps. You need some motivation for today.
It just has to be a good mix. That's all. I just get a little nervous when people don't sound like they're from Brooklyn and they have galleries in Brooklyn. Because I know that as soon as I get involved with that, I'm gonna get a lot of heat. And then graffiti artists show up and they start bombing front, and you know, all kinds of weird stuff happens. So it has to be a good mix always. Like I started a not-for-profit organization for women. You think I'm the head of it? I appointed somebody. I walked away because I am not qualified enough to curate for women. And that's the way I see it. And you can say I'm being discriminatory if they want, but it's not about race. I know a lot of people like Tim that are right here in Brooklyn with me, and a lot of white, Chinese, whatever folks that live here in Brooklyn. And if I just kind of got triggered because that person spoke, and then they said, and right after this, I'm gonna take some questions, and then I have to leave. That person didn't want to talk to me because there's like a whole political atmosphere in Brooklyn right now. There's this thing called, Bushwick Collective, and it's somebody that started to bring in artists from outside, and they thought they were doing a good thing, but they actually were selling those spaces. They're doing it for money, so they were selling the wall space They had a good gift of gab. They were going to all the local businesses and saying, hey, can I do a mural here? Get permission, get them on a contract. They're just good business people. And a lot of the graffiti artists started to get upset because they were going over their classic pieces that they didn't respect. It just looked like gibberish to them, but it's like, this is a classic graffiti artist. That thing's been up there for like 30 years. You just went over it to put like a Swedish artist, right? So we've been having a huge war in Brooklyn. So as an artist, be careful if you come to New York and you associate yourself with certain people because it might actually hurt you. And I'm not saying that to talk smack about anybody. I'm just trying to give some advice. If anybody has any comments about that, feel free. I'm open to discussion.
You know, I do understand that. I mean, the whole mural world is something I don't get yet. I love it, and I love graffiti artists. And my sister lives in Bed-Stuy in Brooklyn, and the work done there is great. But I guess the real question is, and this is not to contest what you're saying or anything, but because I don't know if I'd agree with it either. I like keep the pieces, keep the authenticity, keep what came 30 years before and defines your city and your town. But at the same time, like, and stop me if I'm wrong. Don't.
I'm not going to stop. I'm going to let you finish, please.
Oh yeah. But let me just ask this. But like, does that not defeat the whole ideology of graffiti? I mean, isn't graffiti in the now? Isn't it politically driven in instances? Isn't it socially driven? Like, the ability to paint over something and over again. Like, if you start saying like, well, you can't do that here, you can't do this here, doesn't that go against the actual ideology? And that's just a question.
Absolutely not, actually. I started off as a graffiti artist a long time ago, and I'm a whole corporate animal now, so I don't even sound like a graffiti artist, but I did it a long time ago. And I will say this, that, there's all kinds of graffiti artists here. There's all kinds of graffiti artists here, all walks of life. And I'm not even talking about, like, cultural, like black, brown, Asian. I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about all walks of life. I've known rich graffiti artists, poor graffiti artists, and the thing that makes them all the same is that they paid their dues and they respect each other. And I know what you're saying about like going over stuff, because let me tell you, I'm from here, man, and a lot of these neighborhoods look way better now with these murals, like way, way better, right? So I get where you're coming from, right, Andre? But here's the deal: I'm from here. So if I come around and I see a Zexer piece, right? Somebody that's in the fine art community or somebody that's just doing quote unquote street art from a different country and they don't know graffiti, they won't know who Zexer is. And they'll go over a Zexer piece, right? A Zexer piece is the equivalent to like Michelangelo in New York. And not nobody, but a lot of people don't know who Zexer is. Zexer used to work with Say Adams. Say Adams was the guy that started he's my mentor's mentor. He started the creative department at Def Jam. Zexer is a legend in New York. And a lot of these people that are coming in from out of state, they're like, nah, but this looks better than that. Zexer created the blockbuster letters. He's a typography legend. People don't, that's just graffiti. He was the first one to do blockbuster letters, right? So people come in here without any type of anthropology, any type of like history, and they just start throwing stuff on walls because to them it looks like a mess. A lot of this stuff is literally like 35 years old, and that's why it looks that way. So like ask about it before you take something that looks super old down, because literally it's like a living testament to like that's why they were going over Banksy stuff. Because big deal, because Banksy's famous and he's some guy that's selling it for millions of dollars. He's better than Zexer? Absolutely not. Zexer is way more bigger of a legend than Banksy. And I think that's the problem. Everybody has their own like art culture, but graffiti artists have a very specific culture, and it's ingrained here, and you can't knock them because that's what hieroglyphics were and caveman drawings, and that's the root, man. That's the street art. So when we as fine artists and commercial artists start to shit on them, excuse my language, we trigger them, man, and that's why they start bombing and going over, Banksy stuff. And then as fine artists, we're like, how dare you? But we just don't get them, I think,
So, Anthony, my question to you is, what if it's a local artist? I feel like if it's a local artist, then I feel like they have, I feel like they can go over the tag if their art is better.
Nope, absolutely not. You see? No, and I'm not trying to diss you. What I'm saying is, I'm going to preface that with saying this. It just shows that you don't understand graffiti culture. And I'm not saying that to say something's wrong with you, but what I'm saying is, no, actually, no. You can be a local guy and just not be a graffiti artist, not know any graffiti artist.
But if you're a local guy, you understand that.
You should know that.
Exactly.
Right. You just said it. I guess so. Yeah. So as a local guy, it's not that because you're local, you're gonna get respect. Absolutely not. As a local guy,
but the whole.
Let me finish. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to describe what you just said in a different way. I understand what you're saying. What I'm saying is that as a local guy,
What did dog
you
get?
know the pitfalls, the ins and outs of that. That's the only thing that you're armed with. You might not even be as good an artist as like an Andre or anybody else, right? But you're armed with that knowledge, like, oh shit, I ain't gonna go over that. I know a local guy. He lives right down the street from me. White dude, right? Great art. I love his art, right?
Actually, I don't know where it's at.
It's in the top drawer.
Across the street from the Assemblywoman's office, and the Assemblywoman was happy. I know her. She's Latina, right? Maritza Davila. We were all happy about this mural.
Yo, sit down and chill somewhere. You're gonna be in here for a minute.
Bombed, man, and I felt bad. They just bombed him because he went over something that they considered was a classic. So they bombed him. You know, like he's not from here, unfortunately.
Who is speaking now?
I'm sorry?
Who is speaking now? Hello, I'm Julia from Germany. I am right here.
Okay, I'm sorry. Why did you interrupt me?
Proper preparations prevents poor performance.
No, please go ahead, Julia.
She's new. She got a party.
No, please, no,
Just,
Julia.
she wants you to introduce yourself. Just introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry,
Julia.
I'm new here.
I'm sorry, Julia. I'm sorry. Let me be mindful.
I'm so bad in English. Sorry
Not at
for
all.
this.
Not at all.
And I don't know if I'm right here. James or Kenneth, who's speaking now?
It was Anthony. It was Anthony who was speaking. Anthony.
Okay. Anthony. Okay, now I joined the room, and I hope it's okay.
No, of course, Julia. Let me reset the room. Not reset the room. It's not my room, but let me reset what I was saying, Julia. I was just saying, Julia, that, you know, as a person that lives here in New York City and Brooklyn, you know, I find that, and I work with a lot of outside artists, actually. And I've mentioned one, Tim. Tim is not from New York, guys. I'm not telling you, Tim. Do you think Tim was born in Brooklyn? No. He just came here, and he built, he added value. He helped people. He was part of a lot of stuff. And, you know, he started to learn the landscape and the culture, and he made friends with a lot of people. Let me tell you, I know a lot of people that come in from out of state, and they start to make friends with the locals. And I remember this local muralist. She did an amazing mural, and somebody went over it with graffiti. You know what she did? She spoke to the locals, and they took care of it. They didn't do anything negative, but they went and they spoke to the local graffiti artist, and they said, listen, this person is reputable, this part of this community now, and they're helping to beautify this. So please don't go over their work. And it was resolved. And I think that Tim did it similarly. You know, he built value. He came in here. I mean, Julia, imagine if I went to Germany and I started to just put all this artwork all over the walls, and I never even made friends with anyone from the local area. I'm sure you guys would feel the same way. Like, who is this guy? He's not even from here, and he's like taking over all of our walls, you know?
Wait, hold up, Anthony.
I'm sorry, yeah?
Yo, you're diverting from my question, though. I said, what if the person was local, like the graffiti artist was local, I feel like they have a right to go over it if their art is better.
No, absolutely not.
That's
not how it works. That's not graffiti culture.
Graffiti culture, though, is bombing over somebody's art.
That's not true. It's community culture. It's a community, right? And that's the thing. Like, you want to judge people because you're not from that culture. But I'm telling you, I'm from that culture. And it has nothing to do with talent. It's the community. You know that, bro. You've seen a lot of graffiti that looks like trash. And it's all over the place. You know what they call that? They call that all city. That means that the guy put in work. He went to every single borough and he bombed, right? It might look like crap to you, but that's part of that culture. That guy moved. That guy took all the trains. He was everywhere. That's work. People don't respect your art here. They respect your hard work. And if it just so happens that your art is good, that's dope. And I tell all my mentees in the music industry, I said it's 90% talent. I mean, it's 90% business and 10% talent. You know, you can make that 90% anything else, but the point is, it's not just talent. It's about social engagement. I've met a lot of artists. I've worked with tons of artists, not just designers, but like singers and rappers. And they have horrible attitudes. And guess what? They don't make it. That's what I'm trying to kind of say, James, that it's not just about talent. You can't just be out here in your ego bag like, I'm dope. You saw how humble Travis was? He was so humble, man. That inspired me to go check his Instagram. If he was cocky, I would have never looked. So it's a vibe. You know, like, I mentor people in the music industry, and I always try to go back to energy and vibes. You know, you got to respect everybody. I came in here showing everyone respect. And I could be in my ego bag.
Where's the line between self-confidence and being cocky?
there is no line, really. Everybody just has to be mindful, right? Because when I started out in this industry, I didn't know who everyone was. So I was just trying to be mindful, and I listened to people, and I try to see where they're coming from. And you know what? Sometimes people were cocky. I had a guy I worked with, he told me that shit. He said, you sounded cocky when I first met you, and I didn't understand that. And then when I started to work with y'all, he told me this. And I'm saying this not out of cockiness, but I'm just giving you a true story, okay? So don't judge me for my talents. And when I asked him, like, why did you think I was cocky? He's like, well, because, it was coming from nowhere to me. But when I worked with him and I got to know you, I was like, damn, this guy's really smart. Like, he's just trying to impart some wisdom, And, listen, I try to be mindful myself because I know that I get attacked a lot. Like, oh, who are you to tell me what to do? And I'm like, well, actually, let me tell you. And I just start going down a list, and they're like, oh, okay, I get it. And a lot of people still don't care. They're like, I don't care. These old heads in here trying to tell us what to do. That's not mindfulness. If I'm mindful enough to come in here, and I worked at Universal Music Group, HBO. I was the digital production manager at HBO. I know more about photography than most people in this room, okay? Because I managed a team of photographers, right?
He said, "Do they let somebody else speak?"
But I'm not going to come in here and lead with that because it's going to set people off and be like, oh, here we go. No.
But you see how polite everyone is, you know what I'm saying? And he's talking, and we're letting him talk. The other dude who's engaging him, who's trying to play devil's advocate or whatever with him, he's even letting him talk. And this is the thing about artists, like, we can listen. Go ahead and ramble. We can listen.
So let me just.
And see, he comes back soon as he finished.
So
he gave him the whole floor.
In terms of like the street art realm, if what you're saying is and this is I think kind of what James was saying is if I'm a local and I see a piece from a legendary street artist or whatnot, if I don't know and I go over that, that's going to create like in a sense a street war. But if I'm a local and I know the history and I know the origin of particular artists and particular pieces, I know not to go over certain pieces. Go next to them maybe, but not going over certain pieces because they have value, historical value to the culture, historical value to the movement and what it was about. So that's kind of what I think James was saying. Is if I'm a local, then I go over it because my piece is better. That's kind of me saying like my work is better. But the reality of it is what I'm seeing is what I'm getting is if you are a local, then you know that history, you know the origin of that original piece that was thrown up, and so out of respect, you wouldn't go over it, even though you could go over it, but it would just ruffle some feathers.
And that's all I'm saying, Kenneth and James. That's all I'm saying, right? And it's the same thing as this conversation we're having right now, right? And I'm not talking about this place because this is a great room, actually. You guys are actually pretty mindful. And everybody can be triggered slightly. That's fine. But some people just get aggressive, right? You guys are not like that. You guys are really cool. So what I'm saying, James, is the same way that I walk into a room and people should be mindful towards me because they don't know my history, we should be mindful towards like a scrabble you see on a wall. If it looks like that thing has been there forever and nobody's touched it, you should probably assume that it has some type of relevance. And ask the business owner, hey, who did that? Ask the locals, before you get busy. That's all. Put a little mindfulness into what you're doing. That's all I'm saying, James.
No. I totally feel that. I get what you're saying. Like, if they're bringing in like out of town artists, but I'm saying locals, like they know the work and the value. So if they're trying to come up as a street artist, then like you said, a dude's putting in work. So why can't a local put up go through work, like bomb everything he wants to, but he knows like the value of that, and if he thinks his art is better, like that's totally different than bringing in someone from out of town that doesn't know the history.
I think actually, James, it's very similar. It's almost the same thing. It doesn't matter if you're from here, because let me tell you something. Even if you know that artist is whack and he doesn't really get up a lot, and this place is crazy out here. Like, these places are run by crews, graffiti crews, and that guy that you think is whack might be down with Cost. Because I dealt with that too. I did a project with Cost, and we did a T-shirt that says "Kings Running Things" on it. That's his crew, KRT. And I had a big marker tag that we did a T-shirt out of. That wasn't even done by Cost. That was done by one of the people in his crew, and he told us, take that picture of that mailbox and use that as a T-shirt. I give you permission because I'm the head of the crew. And that guy got pissed, and he couldn't say a damn thing to him because the guy's actually putting up his crew, KRT. That's all political, man. So, like, when you see a graffiti tag and you think it's whack, you better ask somebody first, because that might be that guy's block, you know, or that guy's neighborhood. So he might be whack to you in the Bronx.
He said GMO number 9. Damn, but that shit sound like you got that out of a laboratory somewhere. What the fuck? Is that a government issue strain?
It gets really convoluted, but it's not that deep, honestly. When you think about it, like Tim, he moved into neighborhood first, and he was here for a while. And he didn't do graffiti, but he pushed his artwork, and he's pushing art with black women in it. I dated a black woman that bought one of his pieces. Okay, so the man knows what he's doing. He's building, you know, goodwill with people. He's in the community. He's a community activist. He gives back. I'm an activist, and I'm not from another state. I'm from here. And if I wasn't an activist in Brooklyn, I wouldn't get the respect that I have here, even if I lived here. You know, it's a political atmosphere too. People who've been living here for like 5 generations, man. They're really like territorial, James.
Yeah, it's the graffiti world is totally different. I'm not a graffiti writer myself, but I have a bunch of friends in the LBK crew out of Minnesota. They came down to Denver and bombed the entire town, but they would never go over a tag of like a TKO crew or someone who's like established in Denver. And what's wild is like once you get into that graffiti writing world, like just sitting there and listening to them talk, you realize that there are like celebrities in this world, there are train writers in this world, there are people who just do walls. Like it's this whole other thing. So like James, to your point, I think coming from an outside perspective, thinking of an art as like technically good or technically bad, so if I'm better than you, I can go over you, like that would make sense to me. But in this world, it's just not how it really works. It's all about like which cruise you're in, how long you've been there, like pretty much exactly what Anthony is saying.
And last but not least, art is relative. You know that because there's a lot of stuff that came out a long time ago, and most artists are not revered in their life. They're revered after death, because then we appreciate them. Okay, so just look at it that way. It's all perspective. And I've been doing information graphics at Moody's Investor Service for years. And people look at it like, that looks easy. I'm like, no, it's not actually, because I have to envision data. And it has to be simple. It's a whole different rule that applies to that type of graphic. So we just have to respect each other's crafts as artists. It doesn't matter what they're doing. You can't assume that you're better than them just because you think it's a scribble. That scribble might have set the tone for like graphic design that we do all today. I'll give you a great example of that. Say Adams. Say Adams started the creative drawing at Def Jam. He started the drawing board, right? He toured all of my music, and he was a graffiti artist, right? So Say understands the culture, and he's a whole corporate animal like me now, but you know that's why he's good, because he understands all those different art cultures and he respects all of them.
Watch the movie Wild Style, man. I think Wild Style is a dope starter for someone who's on the outside. And this is an old movie, but when you watch it, you will understand. Like even though a lot of those pieces that were featured in that movie, I don't necessarily think that they're dope, but in the amount of time that they created them in, and the era that they were created in, those pieces are like iconic pieces. And it took me a minute. I'm actually from Minnesota, so I heard my man Spencer mention Minnesota. But I actually got to sit down and speak with a bunch of street artists that were from that world. And so when I would listen to them speak again, you know, it was very enlightening to hear that there are certain celebrities. Like if you mention certain names, it may not mean nothing to the average person listening, even to me as an artist. Like it didn't mean anything to me, but in that graffiti world, those names ring bells. That's like mentioning like a Jay-Z or mentioning, you know, to the person who's listening. That name rings bell like Jay-Z's name rings bell in the music industry. So just being mindful and respectful. I mean, I guess in a sense it's kind of like, you know, you're in your house and someone else coming into your home and they're like, yo, this pot doesn't look good in this area, and start moving your dishes around. You like what the hell are you doing? Like that isn't how it works here. Or maybe one of your kids, you know, is a rebel because you said, what if they were local? Well, one of your kids is a hard-headed, knucklehead asshole, and then he's waking up in the morning and saying like, yo, Dad, I don't really like the way you cook breakfast, so get the hell out of my kitchen. Like, your son can't talk to you like that, even though he is, you know, he lives there. So just kind of I kind of look at it from that perspective is just being respectful of the past, and then going into the future, knowing that okay, this is the cans and cannots. I can do this and I can't do that. I have to respect those that came before me and the work that came before me, even though work has tremendously gotten better over the years, and taggers have gotten way more detailed over the years. You still can't go over the other stuff that was there before you, because that kind of pioneered and inspired someone else that may have inspired you, that inspired them, and that inspired them. So there's tiers of inspiration that came from that work that you think is whack, which led you to do what you're doing right now. It's just respect.
And by the way, Kenneth, Say Adams was in Wild Style, okay? And when Say Adams comes into our rooms to speak, you know what he speaks about? He speaks about Jean-Michel, and he speaks about Keith Haring. He speaks about Andy Warhol, because he was hanging out with all those guys, and all of those guys were graffiti artists. So Basquiat was a graffiti artist, okay? Say Adams, graffiti artist. Keith Haring, graffiti artist. So think about what you're saying, man, because honestly, you might be going over a future Keith Haring, a future Basquiat, you know? That's all I'm saying. Put things in perspective, like the homie Ken was saying, because a lot of these people are going to be future legends, and we don't want to be the ones that are known for going over them, you know?
One argument I have.
I totally get that. Like, I totally get that perspective, but what I'm saying is, okay, if you're an up-and-coming graffiti artist and, like, you're local and you know the history, so it's like a rap battle. Like, oh, I challenge you because, like, you think you're dope, but I think I'm dope, too.
Oh, but that's just graffiti culture, bro. We could go into that. That's
what I'm talking about.
That's a completely different conversation. These guys literally are shooting at each other. I was in a bar one time I'm friends with graffiti artists. That's why I'm like low key just sneaking in here with this, but I know all of them. and I have paintings in my home right now. I have 4 canvases up right now by famous graffiti artists, and I'm down with this crew called BTW. Stands for Big Time Writers. That's JD, JA, Lean, Set, Clark. These are legends, right? I was in a bar with these guys, and somebody smashed a bottle over one of their heads, and it was completely random. That was graffiti beef. Now, if you want to listen, there's a whole vibe there with the graffiti beef. They're literally like gangsters, and they pay their dues. That's why I respect those artists even more. You're right, James. Like, if you think you're better than somebody, that's beef. You're going over them. That's literally a fight. That's why when mural artists go over graffiti artists, they freak out when they get, man, you lucky you didn't get beat up. You're lucky you didn't get shot at. They're being nice to you by going over you or toying you out. Because Banksy never got shot at or beat up, you know? The local artists, trust me, the culture is a lot more violent than it appears. So we just have to, as fine artists and people trying to go into that space, we have to be very delicate. Because those gatekeepers are straight gangsters, actually.
I'd like to say real quick, one, I love the conversation. I was born in 79, and I remember the 80s very well, so I remember the trains full of graffiti and all of that, and that was really my introduction into art. I'm not here to talk about myself. I just really wanted to point out, someone mentioned the movie Wild Style. I just wanted to say real quick, one, I love the conversation. I mean, a lot of the things I was going to say, you guys said it, so I'm not going to repeat myself. I'll repeat what you guys said. But one thing that I wanted to add is, for those who really don't know graffiti culture, a good documentary, one of my favorites, maybe my favorite documentary of all time, is Style Wars. It's a great
I've seen that. Fire.
Yeah, it's a great documentary, not only about graffiti, but also the birth of hip-hop in a way. So that's a great documentary for those of you who want to know more about really what the conversation is about in here. Watch that documentary. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful New York City timepiece, and just about art in general. Even if you're not into graffiti, you will definitely love that documentary. There's a scene in there, don't want to give it away, but there's a scene in there where this guy by the name of Cap, who's like the villain in the documentary, is telling the people who are filming the documentary, you guys are lucky that I didn't catch them doing that mural over there, because it would have been over. I would have boom, 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 everyone would have been done, yada, yada, yada. So he's basically talking about beef that he had with another artist, and that he didn't like that artist was putting up a piece on that specific corner. So for those who don't understand, really, what's this whole graffiti thing about? It's not only paint and some letters put together. It's really, this is me. It's almost like when a dog pisses on a tree. No, that's that dog's territory. So it really goes deeper than art. So that's what I really wanted to add for those of you who haven't seen that documentary. It's a great documentary. Go catch it. Style Wars. It's probably even on YouTube for free.
Yeah, it's on YouTube.
Yeah. All right, guys. Let's keep this conversation going. I love it. And my name is Johnny. I'm a photographer from New York City.
What's up, Johnny? Link in with me, man. We should chill.
Who was that, Anthony?
Yeah, just click on my Instagram and DM me. Because if you're looking, we got to link up. I know a lot of people here in the graffiti world, too.
Yeah.
I
know some people, too. My man Jacob, I think he tags Rye. He's down with this crew, but I forgot the name of the crew. But all his friends are all graffiti artists.
They're making art, bro.
It's a beautiful world. I mean,
yo, bro, Shaman, you thinking the same thing I'm thinking, but this I'm thinking though. Like I'm with the other dudes, yo. What if I am local and I know the history? So what, nigga? I'ma bomb your shit. Like this motherfucker thinking like Genghis Khan, Alexander the Great, Napoleon, goddamn Grant. General Grant, like this motherfucker want to conquer some shit. I don't give a fuck. I know you over there. I know your shit. And you know what? I'm still coming to take that shit, bitch. Fuck you. I'm here now, and I kind of like that shit. Like, you want to bang over that shit, nigga? Then let's bang, bitch. But yo, I'm about to tag over your shit. I don't give a fuck if it been here for 27 years. Fuck that shit. I'm here now. I was born and raised in this barrel, bitch, and I'm about to own this shit, yo. Fuck everything. I'm knocking down all the pillars. I'm chiseling out all the faces. I'm putting my face up on all the edifices now. Yeah, I feel my man. Because, yo, if I was in that game, fuck, yo, I'll be so rebellious. Oh, you can't tag over that shit. Says who? Says who? Watch. Come at me, nigga. I'm fucking, I'll bomb over any fucking thing. It's a Basquiat. Fuck Basquiat. Nigga died in the 80s. Fuck that nigga. You tell me I'll bless on somebody disrespect my shit too, nigga. Don't come around my shit, nigga. Take it on my shit.
Element, yeah, definitely an element. It's crazy.
Yeah, a lot of people. I mean, I guess a lot of us were either into the culture or we're old enough to know the elements. But a lot of people don't know that breakdancing is hip hop, graffiti is hip hop, DJing is hip hop, and all of these things aren't just something that somebody came up with. Like, this is life. This is a culture. People really died for this way back in the 80s. I mean, hip-hop started with the murder of this kid. I believe his name was Blackie. There's a documentary. Let me see if I can remember the name before I stop speaking. Rubble Kings. Rubble Kings, another great hip-hop documentary, not necessarily about graffiti, but it will show you the birth of hip-hop and how it started. So real quick, this kid, Blackie, gets murdered. These kids get together. Let's stop the violence. Let's make music. They started making music. From there, hip-hop was born, along with the graffiti and everything else that I mentioned. So look up Rubble Kings. It may be on YouTube as well. Who knows? Rubble Kings and Star Wars will definitely shed a light. And for all of you who really don't understand or want to know more about the conversation that's going on in this room, those two documentaries will just blow your mind. They're both great. And I'm glad that I bumped into this room. Thank you to whoever created it. The conversation is great.
Yeah, it is dope. Just to double up on the seriousness of it, it is serious for real. I remember growing up. I'm more from the DMV DC area, but when you catch a vibe, like you go on, you know, a little alley or in the woods, whatever, go smoke a little something, and you catch somebody in the act when they, you know, doing a piece, or even if you roll up on a piece, just it was just done. It would, like, to me, it would it's kind of creepy. It's like a kind of like it's spooky. It's scary. It's a serious type of thing. So you feel it, and like yeah, it's serious for real. It's corny and it might be campy now, but also a movie that kind of get into the energy of it. Old school, The Warriors. I don't know if someone already talked classic.
Oh yeah, definitely. Fire. And that's actually a true story. If you guys didn't know, The Warriors is a true story. Of course, they got made into a Hollywood version, but that meeting. I'm sorry to cut off the guy who was speaking. I'm sorry, but I got a little excited. So when you said Warriors, that's one of my favorite movies. But that meeting that they had up in the Bronx was a real meeting that happened with all the gangs in the Bronx and in New York. Well, not necessarily in New York City, but more the gangs in Uptown and in the Bronx. They got together to like squash the beef. So that part of the movie is a true story. Now that other part of them trying to get to Brooklyn, that was all Hollywood. But yeah, that's a great movie for anyone who's interested in a good old school New York City movie.
B Street. Watch B Street too.
Sorry.
B Street is fire.
You know what's a great document, and it's real. Like, I mean, documentaries are all real, but you read is video of these kids on their block in the Bronx and doing all this crazy shit. 80 blocks from Tiffany's. A great documentary. Like, you really see these gangsters from the South Bronx doing what they did. So all these pictures, all these images that maybe some of you guys have come across, either in history books or on TV, like of how run down the Bronx was, and because I remember it. I mean, I was 5 years old in 1985. Watch that documentary, 80 Blocks from Tiffany's. Great documentary, and it's special because, I mean, to me it's special because I remember that era. But for those of you who want to know more about the old New York City and how it was in the 80s, definitely watch that. It was so crazy in the 80s that the cops were handing out flyers that said where not to go, what not to do, to like tourists and people that were coming into New York City. I wish I had more information on that, but it said Fear City on the flyer. If you actually Google that, Fear City, New York City flyer, you'll probably come up. It'll probably come up, and you'll see all the rules that the NYPD were giving out of towners and tourists of where not to go in New York City. That's how serious the crime was over here in the 70s.
That's what's up, Johnny. Yeah, man, you got some good knowledge. Yeah, if whoever the person was, yeah, they should just go ham on the history of it. Before knowing the deep history of it, like, you know, where it came from for real, a lifestyle, like you're saying, it was just hearing the music, wearing the clothing, etc., just kind of playing with it because you participating in another person's or in another collective's culture, and you're not, you know, going by the rules that they went to. You get to exhibition, you get to play, you know, whereas it wasn't a play. Like, I guess, you know, all the documentaries and everything, and just talking to people like you and y'all, when you get the experience of one, they get up early morning, midday, you're being led by how strong the sound is. And so getting from the DJ's perspective, when they break down like why they want to be so loud, and you see like these tower of speakers, and getting that whole vibe of things, like the technology ain't nothing, but oh my gosh, the vibration, I would say, is like what I always look for that, even though I never honestly experienced that myself. A literal block party in like the way that they've described, and some of the videos you can see, is so it feel like how come the technology is so simple but the vibration is so strong? Like you're gonna compare like a 12 gauge to like a BB gun, in my opinion. Unless like I'm trying to find where that party at though, for real. So yeah, it's like it's a difference as people that growing up. The Kid and Play. There was a great documentary. The guy, the light skinned guy. I forget if he's Kid or Play. But he was.
I mean, Kid. That's
Kid. Yeah.
That's Kid. Yeah.
That's what's up. He was just describing it. You know, like, bro, like this was like it was like house music, hip hop, rap, what disco, whatever. Like just so groovy. I stepped into this conversation late, but it sounded like it was talking about culture and like the importance of it, and it's absolutely, and it's like it's just a very important thing, you know, to look into it for real. Like go ham, like go act like it's like your PhD, you know, and really go study that shit for real, because you'll catch a whole different groove when you really see what's up. You know, I guess if it sounded like someone talking about tagging or whatnot. And, like, yeah, study every aspect of the culture, yo, so you ain't looking like you're, you know, so you can fall into your groove, you know, because everyone got one.
So basically influential.
Oh, go ahead, Freddie. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say it's totally influential. I mean, just like how it's just come from that time period and era, and just like how it's really taken over the world bit by bit, you know, from hip-hop to fashion to everything else. So it's kind of insane just like how the small grows into the mainstream and like where we see it, you know, a decade down the road. So I'm curious what's happening now. But yeah, go ahead, Kenneth. And also, like, the other thing I would say after Kenneth, if Jess, Darby, V, Nicole, Z, any of the women want to chat in, I just haven't heard any female voices, but after Kenneth, feel free to.
So for me, it's like the way, like the whole respect thing, the way I look at it is like this. For African Americans, that's like the beginning of our culture, of us creating something that is ours, being that we were taken originally, and it goes deep, being that we were originally taken from our homeland. So we were brought to this country, and we had to create something that was ours. So like when you go back to like thinking about like Hispanic culture, like it goes deep, like they can trace their origin. Hip hop, those elements are African Americans' culture. Like that's where we're tracing the origin of our culture to. Like that's like the beginning of something that was ours, that we hold to a high esteem. Now it's becoming watered down, and a lot of people are still fighting for to keep that richness and to keep that pureness. So when you hear about someone not really respecting the culture, and if you're a street artist and you don't really know the culture and you're going over one of the goats or one of the legends from the beginning, that's like really disrespectful. That's almost like Europeans coming in and knocking the nose off the hieroglyphics, like those statues and changing them and rearrange. I mean, you know, we always see movies, and we're seeing movies about Egypt, and it's all white people in the movies. Like that's how disrespectful that is. So, like really finding out those elements about African American culture and our I guess so to speak, our feet, planting our feet in the soil and creating and making something that's ours. Just knowing like the elements of hip hop, like the thing that's at the forefront now is MCing and rapping, but before that it was definitely the DJ. Like the DJ is the one who would get the party hype, who would get it was all about the DJ in the beginning, and then the MC was a person that would just kind of guide people and direct them. That the MC came in second. So there's a lot of different elements and a lot of different historical things that come along with it, and if you're looking from just the surface perspective, you can be disrespectful to it. And there are people that know the origin and that are still trying to protect the origin of it, and and the purity of it. And so when you do that, of course, you're going to get some wars and some hood wars and some stuff that people on the surface may not even understand. So that's just, like my 2 cents of it. So dig deep, dive in, learn your history like you learning about Columbus. Same thing.
That's so true. And it's also, people hear the word history and it's like, what the fuck, history? No, this isn't college. This is going to be fun for any of you that want to learn more about it. After you watch those documentaries that I mentioned, and if anybody wants me to mention them again, I will. Please. And take everything that everyone else in here has said. It's going to be so much fun. You're going to look at hip-hop music in a totally different aspect. And if you're not a fan of it now, you will be after you watch. Someone said they wanted me to repeat the documentary, so I'll say it now. One that I said was Style Wars. That concentrates mainly on graffiti. Rubble Kings. It's a great one as well. It really shows you the beginning of hip hop, and I don't want to give away the end, but it takes you all the way to current times. Did I have enough? Someone said Wild Style also, and I think that's it. I only said Star Wars and Beat Street, yes.
And 80 Blocks from Tiffany's.
Oh, yes, that's right. 80 Blocks from Tiffany's is a documentary, and it's as real as it gets. There's a guy in there that says, yo, we want your club, we taking your club, and we took his club. This is a South Bronx documentary of the gang culture over there. And it's a serious documentary. I mean, I love it, because I somewhat remember a little bit of it, of that era, I mean. So,
I just had a movie to add to that, being Downtown 81.
With Basquiat. Yes.
Yeah, in my past, I'm a current grad architecture student, and I've just been listening to him because I've been learning, for sure. And I thought it was really interesting when Kenneth talked about kind of the roots of music, or rather hip hop, and how, the 4 different phases of it. I never thought of it that way, but, there's a few movies that I watched with my dad, one of them being, I think it was called Breakin', and I love that movie. But overall, talking about, how cultures moved and, why things happen, it's very interesting, being that, hip-hop is, the essence of African-American culture. One of the first things African-Americans truly created, and one of the things that I learned about kind of the way that New York developed and how people were kind of oppressed here, even when African Americans were freed and unfreed. New York City was a place of freedom for a little while until it began to bloom in the early 19th century. And I basically studied about the first African American led theater, or playwright, and how they created their first original works along with different spin-offs of Shakespeare. And eventually they became too competitive, and it was a part of the movement in which these people were displaced further and further north, out of to the northern side of Manhattan to Harlem, and you kind of learned about what ended up making Harlem, such a big cultural hub of the world once it began to boom. And just for me, being new to New York, I'm from the DMV, but I moved here for school, and I saw the Apollo Theater the other day for the first time, and it's just amazing. It's kind of, I don't know, it's such a big point of emphasis for African American culture and some of the original things it created. And honestly, what influenced music that much today?
Dude,
I don't care if nobody else don't like this shit but D1. As long as that motherfucker like it, hey, y'all can't tell me shit, nigga.
I'm from here, man.
Nobody else can't tell me shit about this damn pain.
I remember when Michael Jackson died, I went to the Apollo.
I don't care what nobody else thinks.
I didn't have a camera at that time.
Since the background is so dark, I know you say you're in a gym, but it's kind of dark and blurred out too. So I just want to add some color and make you guys pop out and jump towards the viewers, so they don't feel like you're stuck in this dark little box. So this shit is gonna be fucking vibrant, bright as hell, bro. Cause the emotion, this motherfucker smiling so bright, he damn near lighting up the whole room his damn self. We gotta make this shit bright, man.
Because a lot of people come here and they just, New York City, whatever, and they don't really respect the culture. That's why I love this conversation, and I'm glad that I mentioned those documentaries. For those of you who really don't know, watch that, and you'll be updated.
I just want to say, like, I really love this conversation. It's been really beautiful, and I paint murals professionally, and a big topic of conversation is somebody tagged my mural. And I always thought what was like a form of like respect to the like mural artist, but now hearing this and knowing the truth behind it, I've never had one of my murals tagged because I'm very mindful, I guess, of where I put my murals. I don't ever want to paint over someone else's work.
Yeah.
Even if I'm getting paid to do it, I won't do it. It just feels wrong.
Hey,
but
Jess.
This has been a cool conversation, and I really appreciate it.
Hey, Jess, I know, I'm going to just say it because it's facts. I know this white girl in Bushwick, and it has nothing to do with her skin color. She's just not from here. And she's dope, man. Her artwork is amazing. And I mentioned her before. Somebody went over her artwork. But she lives in Brooklyn, right? And there's a bunch of, thugs on the block, too, right? But she knows them. They're her neighbors. So she goes up to this one guy, and she's like, I know you write graffiti. Can I talk to you? And I was in front of her when she said it. And he was like, he heard her out, and it touched him. He was like, man, you're cool. Really? They went over your art? And she did artwork on our block. And everybody was so hyped. She did, a thing that was culturally relevant to Puerto Rican. I'm Dominican, but that's a Puerto Rican block. She put, a domino, the domino symbol, and then it said Melrose. Because it's Melrose here in Bushwick. And everybody loves her for that. Let me tell you, the graffiti artists, they rally behind her, and they put the word out, and nobody touches her stuff anymore. I mean, I don't know how to go about it, Jess, but I think it's just about, making friends with people first and just making sure that they like you before you go, hey, look, I'm dope, you know?
Because people don't realize New York City, I mean, I don't know how it is in other states, but everything here is pretty much like a square. You're one block, you live here your entire life, this is your home. The next block, someone else lives there, that's their home, and so on and so forth. That's why, the people say, oh, this is my block, my block, my block. They really do mean that. They own that block. They don't necessarily own it, this property is mine, but it's their space. Same thing with other boroughs. Same thing like the gentleman before was speaking about the Bushwick Collective and coming into Bushwick, and people get disrespected. So for that girl to do that and go up to the guy and actually say all of that was beautiful, and I love her for that.
And it's funny, the culture exists in here too, and I'm not trying to trigger anybody, but there's tons of mods in here. I'm not a mod. I've been sitting here and everybody's been getting modded, but you know what? I'm not mad because this is your space. It's the same concept. I'm not going to come in here and be like, hey, what's up with that? I want to be up there. No, I gotta pay my dues. No. I'm not making a point about that. What I'm saying is that everybody.
I think he did just make a point about that. I think he's mad because he's talked so much and he hasn't gotten a moderator spot yet.
They can be accepted into the same thing like this room. Yeah. The same way you guys are doing this, it's the same way graffiti artists are doing it. And there's nothing wrong with what you're doing. There's nothing wrong with what they're doing, right?
Yeah. Well, the same thing with me. When I started shooting, I will hit up other photographers like, yo, that's a dope spot you went to. Let's link up. Let's do this. Yo, I never got a reply. Never. And, until I got my weight up, I put my photos up, they were strong enough for other photographers to be like, yo, Johnny's dope. Yeah, Johnny, come on, let's roll. So,
right. How does it feel when I come in here and I go, I'm better than all the mods in here, and nobody's giving me a chance? You don't like that shit. So it's the same thing with graffiti artists going to say, what are these guys, because they're better than me? It's the same concept, guys. And that's why I respect that. I'm like, I get it. Because I've been in rooms for a long time before they make me mod. And I get it. I get it, bro. I get it. It's not about what you know.
The only thing with graffiti, though, is like someone else said before, you could be going over a future Keith Haring. Like graffiti goes on a wall, you can't just take that wall and put it in another borough or another wall. Like it's there, so we gotta respect that. Like some kids on my block, right? Indy put a piece up. Cope on the same wall. They all work together. Indy, Cope, and like 3 other ones. I can't remember. It's been a while. And about a year or two ago, I see just scribble on top of this. I'm like, what the fuck is this? So I asked one of the kids on the block. I'm like, yo, who did that? They're like, oh, that was us. We put our name up. I'm like, why would you guys do this? He's like, well, that's from your generation. You know, this is the new generation, so we had to put our name up. And these are not graffiti artists. These are just some little some hood kids who have absolutely no respect. So I say that to say that some people really just don't know.
Yeah,
you know,
the network. You got
Hey, Josh, I just want to add on to that, Johnny, if I can. The reason, and I'm from Bed-Stuy, I'm from Brooklyn. I'm just listening to what you're saying about blocks and everything, but I think a lot of people conduct themselves like that because the repercussions is not the same as they used to be in New York City. Like, me coming from Bed-Stuy, my grandmother came from Bronx River Projects. My grandfather came from Wagner. And that's like late 60s, early 70s. Yeah. And even when Anthony brings up the discussion of Bushwick, like, a lot of people don't know, like, New York City is chopped down into ethnic enclaves. Like, certain places you can't really go, and you're not supposed to go. So even people in the past years moving to New York City, they don't know, like, if you're from Bed-Stuy, you're not really supposed to cross Broadway and go into Bushwick without permission. Like, that's really how New York City and certain areas is really built. So how the art changes and how the culture changes and, like, the block mentality and just what you're holding down, like, a lot of that stuff has become watered down. Because if you come into a lot of these neighborhoods where art is really kind of thriving on the culture, like, oh, I want to move over here, this is dope, like, tons and hundreds of people are not here anymore just for standing on a square and representing their blocks in their neighborhood. For real, for real.
And it's just networking, guys. You're networking in the future, you're networking in the past. Don't shut the door on an OG, and don't shut the door on a new person.
Yeah,
because I mentored a lot, and I had assistants and people that were interns, and those people went on to become big, and they call me, and I call them, and they're still friends of mine. You think that if I would have been mean to an assistant, they would have been friends with me now? Or even like an old guy. I've been friends with old guys that were whole squares, and I showed them respect and love, and I accepted them into my genre, into my demographic, and that's networking. I get jobs like that. So, you know, you don't have to show love to people that are beneath you or above you, but it definitely will bite you in the ass in the future. Trust me.
Yeah, hey, I was actually just curious, and this is a question for Jeff, but then also other people. Like, I always see graffiti artists and muralists fall under street art. But I guess, like, if you're a
You
muralist,
are the last dragon. You possess the power of the glow.
Graffiti folks aren't into mural, but I always see that as very, very close, at least just from the outsider perspective.
I don't think anything's wrong with
Hey, my man, what's happening?
It sounds like a whole weird guru, but it's all about mindfulness because everybody uses different words to describe things.
Well, what about this medallion? This thing, this talisman? This is used to hold my pants up.
It's all the same, it's just different words.
You are the last dragon. You possess the power of the glow.
A street artist or muralist is exactly the same, but they have to be mindful of those people and learn their culture so that they can respond properly without saying anything that's triggering to these people. You know?
I think it wasn't always that way though. It wasn't always that way. Like there was and I think one of those documentaries it talks about like street artists did not respect the gallery artists. Like they didn't. If you were a street artist crossing over into that gallery artist realm, like that was kind of frowned upon for a long time. And then certain street artists kind of like was like, yo, like let's get in this world. Let's get paid. And it became about bringing that recognition because then different things came into place because different people were able to do things for their community with the money that they were making. So it was a thin line between being a street artist and then being a gallery studio artist. Like the respect lines were drawn there. So that's even now. Somebody just mentioned a muralist versus a street artist. Like they're the same but not the same. If you understand the history of it. So that's a part of understanding the history and looking into it and diving into it like you read. You grow to respect it. It's more accepted now, but then it really wasn't. That's when the dollars came into place and started. So when money came into place, it started to change
different perspectives, and kind of water, and that's why we're at where we're at right now. And no disrespect, if you like mumble rap, then that's your vein, but that's where we're in this realm right now. Like once money comes involved, it kind of waters the whole culture down. It waters the whole experience down. Like that's not what I'm listening to today. Is not hip hop. That's not hip hop to me. That's rap. Rap and hip hop is not the same. So street art and muralists are not the same. But you could categorize them as the same, but they're not the same.
And the same people that were trying to get into galleries before as graffiti artists, like Basquiat, Keith Haring, they had a really hard time getting into those galleries, right? Really hard. People were looking at them like they weren't shit. So guess what? You're gonna get shit when you go on the wall, man, because we've been giving them shit for way longer. That's the way they see it, at least, you know. They're triggered by that stuff. They have trauma over not being accepted, so they're not gonna accept us. And we have to be mindful and understanding of that because we started that cycle of hate.
There's definitely a difference between a graffiti artist and a muralist. If you don't write letters, then I really wouldn't consider you a graffiti artist.
Yeah, I know.
Facts, 100% facts on that.
Well, the original typographers before fonts were created.
Yup.
No, as a mural artist, I wouldn't consider myself a graffiti artist at all. Like I know nothing about graffiti. Like I could never say that. I could never claim that title. Like I can barely spray paint. Like I'm trying to learn, but I'm real bad at it.
Keep doing that. But it's all street art, no?
I mean, just in the sense that it's on the street, but it's not the same.
It's street art, Jess. We have people like Cost. There's people that just use paint all the time, rollers, and they're legendary graffiti artists. There's different types of medium graffiti art. You have wheat paste.
You gotta take a bathroom break.
You don't have to be
Nope, sit down.
Like, to jump in real quick, I'm a street photographer. That's how I started my career, and that's what I still do to this day. Even when I work with brands, all my photo shoots are in the street. So would I not be considered an artist because I take photos instead of writing on a wall?
You're a street artist. You're not a graph writer. You're not a graffiti artist. You're a street artist. That's just an umbrella.
Okay, all right, yeah. No, of course, I'm not a graffiti artist, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I'm good with graffiti, but I'm not a graffiti artist. It's just, I may be misheard, but I heard somebody say that you're not a street artist if you don't do graffiti. If it's not graffiti, maybe I misunderstood. That's why I wanted to ask. Am I considered a street artist if I do street photography? But, of course.
I think Johnny, what she said was spray cans, but I just said it could be any. You could be a multidisciplinary artist and be a street artist. And you can be a photographer, I guess.
Do you show your art? Do you show your photography in the street, or is your photography just of the street? Because there's a difference.
You're speaking to me?
Yes, John.
Who was asking you? You know, obviously you're an artist, but I think street art pertains to artwork being shown in the street, like literally, in many cases.
I guess I kind of understand what you mean. I don't 100% agree, but I do understand. Like you're giving a very simple, straightforward answer. Street art is art that's in the street. But what if I create art that I see in the street, not of street art, not of graffiti, but of whatever? I'm a street artist, so would I still?
Dang, it's like 12 o'clock already.
Artist, even though my art isn't on the street, it's of the streets.
No, because it's not available to the masses to see for free, and I think that's the thing about street art, it's accessible to the masses.
I feel like street art is like, it's kind of like a terminology for the origins of like a lot of the arts that happen on the street. Like so street art, when it pertains to graffiti, like I feel like when it was referenced as street art, graffiti was like one of the only things that were present on the streets. But now I'm not saying that like muraling isn't something that's very.
I think that'll be the Sunday movie for tomorrow. Sit back and watch The Last Dragon one more time. Just for good measure. Just to make sure I remember all the funny parts. Yeah, I would hate to forget all the funny parts in the movie. So I gotta watch it, every once in a while just to remind me why my childhood was awesome as fuck.
Graffiti was maybe the only one.
And your childhood sucked because y'all ain't had The Last Dragon. I mean, you still got it. You can watch reruns, but yeah, you can watch it again, but it wasn't the same. Like watching that shit when you were young.
Yeah, I was just gonna
And that shit was
say
new.
that. So what if? By the way, thank you. I hope no one thinks that I'm getting offended because this is the whole point of, I guess, this app and these rooms to have beautiful conversations about art. So I want to ask. Someone mentioned weed pasting right when I started talking. So what if my photographs that I take off the street, I started to weed paste them all over New York City? Would that be considered now street art?
Yes, definitely.
Yes. I think so, yeah.
Okay.
I think it's just a matter of being within the public sphere. Like someone mentioned, your artwork is readily available to the masses for free. I think there's an aspect of street art that comes into play. And I think I'm not against street art being in the gallery at all. Coming from a street art background and being more of a gallery artist now. But I do think it's funny. I mean, it's hard to define all these terms, but to me, street art is almost uninstitutionalable. You know what I mean? It's like the whole point of it is to not be in the gallery, is to be for the masses in public spaces. Like that's like the whole point. And the gallery has a different point. I'm not saying that they don't intersect, because they obviously do. But I think that's something that people gloss over a lot of the time. It's like a different targeted demographic almost.
Yeah, I'm totally with you, Ryan. I think it's fascinating. I was going to say it's fascinating how just basically, if you do think that graffiti was the first form of street art, that it wasn't considered art by the masses. Like, it was considered just noise or, messing with the city's trains and all that. So it's kind of crazy how that all changed, and that happened.
Yeah, no, like street art or art on the environment is for the people and by the people. It's priceless, There's no means to gain money from it. It's open to everybody to see. Plus, like gallery art is obviously there to see, but there's a different audience of people that go to galleries, right? And most of the time, the people who do the street art, those people don't go to galleries. So it's kind of serving a different group of people in a way. Because gallery art, you can lock it away and people never see it again. They never get that emotional, that physical and spiritual reaction from art. That's the great thing about street art.
Hey, Joel, would you consider stuff that's found? I make sculpture, I make light sculptures. Do you think it would be considered street art? Because I find a lot of stuff in the streets.
If you're hanging them in the street for people to consume for free, then yes.
Again, I think the definition lies more where you're showing the artwork as opposed to where you're finding the materials, But I don't know. It doesn't have to be so black and white. Like, honestly, if you want to be a street artist, you could call yourself a street artist. You just may not be accepted by other street artists.
I got no attachment to being a street artist or not. I'm just curious. It's a really good conversation.
Agreed. I appreciate this. I remember. So I'm from Houston. I remember the first time I saw graffiti when I was in New York City, and my aunt, who used to, she's a trained artist, she thought it was like an abomination, and I thought it was the most beautiful shit I've seen this is in the 80s, and I'm sorry. I'm really, really new to this clubhouse, but I'm glad to have clicked on this conscious discussion. And I appreciate everything I've heard since I logged on. Thank you.
I've been an appreciator of street art for a long time. I grew up in the 80s, 70s and 80s, and Beat Street was one of the first movies I went, hell, that. And I grew up in a small town New Zealand, so I wasn't around graffiti on the walls.
I think that was a really great point you brought up, Barkas, is that, it's where you do your work, and, as a street artist or a graffiti artist, a writer, whatever, it's how that place you have in that community, because there's such a community within with writers and street artists, and way back in the day I was a big sister to a lot of graffiti artists and tried to get public walls done and stuff like that, but I had my mentors were actually from New York. They're like old. They were like grandfathers back then too. There's Phase 2 and Coco 144. Yeah, there was like, they really like brought this energy and like really the community, like when we would paint together.
I think there's one big aspect of this that we haven't mentioned yet, and I think this is the reason why a lot of like graph writers or like, you know, bombers or people like that, like people who write in the streets illegally, get really defensive about the term street artist, is because not only are they putting up the art for free for people to look at, but there are huge stakes involved with that. Like I know a couple of graffiti writers who owe the city of Denver like $30,000 for destruction of property, and then they still have other like litigation pending against them. So I think like that's a lot of this terminology is really important to them, because it's like not only are they out there putting in work and doing it all for free and paying for all the materials, but the stakes are super high.
Yeah, totally. And it's like, what's the difference? There's a lot of wars happening. Or like thinking, it's like, is Banksy, like, why is Banksy's work kept up while others' art isn't? And
Eric, can you mute your mic?
Yeah, so I think it's kind of insane too, like how just what you classify as like street art or like something that you would keep up, and it adds this to like a Banksy piece versus someone else that might be doing it, and you know, just the same. Or, you know, different style, but that is also kind of insane. Yeah, there's a documentary on Shepard Fairey, and it's crazy, like how much you see him going to court, and you know, just like having to fight to figure that out, and you know, getting fined or not, and, you know, getting potentially, I don't know if he's going to get jail time, but I'm sure there's tons of people that have gotten like caught and just arrested for something that they're doing, and they do it for the people.
I want to say, like, I think that's the difference between, like, the label street art is when you're doing it for free, and you're doing it, and you're supplying it, you're taking a risk. That's where the term, street art came from versus, you know, gallery art. So.
Can I just say something? You can also just be a public artist. I feel like there's a rush to be classified as a street artist. Some people just do public art. Because there are all those risks and everything, and the risk of street art, the kind of history of street art, right? And there's fines for some people just to be a public artist.
No, that's like perfectly said, because I would say I'm more of a public artist because I get paid to go paint the wall. Like, I don't take any risks. It's not fair to me to say that I take the same risk as a street artist.
Yeah, I would agree. Massive difference there, for sure.
The term for that is a muralist, and that includes a lot of people within that.
Yeah, that's definitely how I describe myself, as a muralist.
Rad, this has been a super good combo. I guess this is a good little, since we've got a break in the conversation. Unless anyone else has something to say, I guess it's a good time to like reset the room. I have a quick thing as a musician. It brings up a top. Sorry, can I go ahead? Or please go ahead. Please go ahead. I'm just thinking about the guys that play for. You know, I hope this is a parallel. It's so I'm mostly, you know, I get paid, and then there's the cats that play for, like, they'll play at the art gallery, they play on the corner, they'll play for tips. They don't, got the people that won't leave the house for less than $100, and then you got the guys that are just giving it out for free for the people right now because it's COVID and there aren't live music venues, and or the ones that are, it's like it's unsafe.
I think I might even add some gold leaf to this thing. I don't know. I'm seeing all kind of shit with the background right now just because I want to freestyle it and make it pop and bright.
I hope that made sense. I'm gonna be quiet now, but that just really sparked a lot of thought.
I wanted to have you guys check out. There's a street artist named Michael Stewart, who was one of Basquiat friends. He inspired one of his pieces. He was going home from after a nightclub. He lived in New York, I believe it was. He was writing on a wall and ended up being beat up and killed by the police. So that is one of the things with being a street artist. You can get pulled over by the police, you get stopped police, and you might get your life ended anytime. So there's a difference. Don't just rush to be a street artist, because there is a lot of risk within this.
There definitely is. I've done a little bit of street art, and I've housed some street artists in Philadelphia from France who, you know, went around and put a bunch of street art. Luckily, they were totally fine. In Philly, like, we're pretty, I don't know, the cops and stuff seem to be pretty lax about people putting up street art. And one thing, you know, that I've heard from time and time again from artists, I guess especially women street artists, is just do it in the daytime. Act like you're supposed to be there, and, you know, no one will mess with you. No one will ask you questions. If you do it at nighttime, then people are like, okay, they're doing something they're not supposed to be doing. And then that's when you might get the cops called on you and whatnot. But, I mean, this is Philadelphia. I don't know about other areas, but that's definitely a recommendation. And then also just be, you know, I mean, it depends on what you're going for. If you're trying to do something deliberate with a deliberate message on a deliberate space, but, you know, you respect the area. You don't put street art up on a building or someone's house. You put it up on materials that's going to get taken down, or, you know, whatnot. I don't know. I don't know if that helps at all, or.
That is helpful, actually. I think it's also, I love seeing street art when it's not just like paint or spray paint. Like, I love seeing, like, there's around my neighborhood, there's someone that's doing like tile art, and they're creating like moonscapes, and then, you know, like, I've seen Space Invaders around other artists that kind of just try to take things that are existing in the world and make it art. So that's, I'm curious if anyone else has like seen that, or like something's a trend.
Freddie, are you in Chicago? Because I've seen that a lot in Chicago. I thought maybe you might be in Chicago also.
Yeah, there's like a wire street artist. Like, they're making like wire sculptures and putting them on the wires that go across streets and stuff. That's happening in Philly. A friend of mine is actually friends with that artist. I don't know them by name. And then, of course, yeah, there's Space Invader and like, what is it, where you take like they're like linoleum, and then you like put it in the streets on the ground, so you can't tear it up or destroy it. It's like permanently stuck into the street. I can't remember what that artist's name is, but he's also, I think, started in Philly, or was in Philly for a hot minute.
I use this time to plug myself. I have an all-black mural festival here in Denver, Colorado. If there's any black artists out there who want to get into the mural game, or if you're a muralist or a graph writer and you want to come out here and do some murals, please hit me up. If you're willing to get out here, I'm willing to get you a wall. And we do have some paid opportunities, but we try to keep 70% of those here for the locals. But definitely hit me up if you want to get into the mural game.
All right, guys. Oh shit. I'll be back in here later on.